Okay, how you guys doing? Why don't you take it from there, Paul?
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. Second fiddle, third fiddle, second banana, fifth banana, green bananas, doesn't make any difference to me. I have no problem playing second fiddle or whatever instrument in the orchestra Pat wants me to play because I believe in Pat and I have confidence in him, and because he is an individual I've always admired and an individual I think of extraordinary leadership. It's really easy for me to subordinate myself to that type of leader, and so I'm going to have, there's never been an issue. Well, you know, in honesty, I don't really think about that. I think my record on education, I think my record on holding the line on taxes, I think my record on building schools, I think my record on negotiating collective bargaining agreements without ever having a strike or having agreements go to arbitration, I think my record on taking on the real tough challenges, I think that's a record that women and men in this state can look at and can recognize and acknowledge that, you know, I'm a person of some accomplishment, and that in selecting me, Pat has brought on somebody who's less concerned about the election. I'm not saying he's less concerned, but at least from my vantage point, and more concerned about assembling the team that can make his second term an extraordinarily successful one. The state created the appointed board prior to my selection as superintendent. So, you know, so for me, I support the governor's position, elected school board. I always have new and fresh ideas, but they're for me to discuss with the governor. You know, it's for the governor to kind of marshal my new ideas, so to speak. I'm here to advise the governor and to be an asset to the governor, even before he's elected. And so at the end of the day, or before the election. So at the end of the day, I will always be there to provide advice. But no, I'm not prepared to talk about any of those things now. Well, I think the number one need is to get the pension issue resolved, and that is to solve the problem permanently. That means to address the $100 billion unfunded liability, because that impacts everything. It impacts the future of the tax climate, impacts the future of local governments. It impacts the financial stability of local governments, because if the state can't address its own financial needs, obviously the state has to play a role in helping local governments address their needs too. It impacts the ability of the state to provide critical social services. So I think that's the number one issue, and everything else takes the back seat to that. And, you know, God bless Pat for basically, a lot of people are punting on that issue. Pat hasn't punted on that issue. Pat has said, this is the number one issue. This is my issue. This is my legacy, addressing that issue. So I think the focus, the political focus, has to be on resolving this issue, getting phase 2 of the pension reforms in place. Pat's already experienced or brought about a significant accomplishment on phase 1, which is the future employees. But obviously phase 2, and he's made it a top priority, and I think everything else takes a backseat to that.